Welcome to the Robin's Nest. I want to talk about a couple of things that's happened over the past 24 hours as far as NASCAR and rally goes. So let's get into it. Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for watching. If you haven't heard, I'm just going to dive right into it with NASCAR because this news story that broke today is a little aggravating. So Toni Breidinger, who I think that's how you say her name, she runs an ARCA. And she's made some truck starts over the past year or so with Tricon. She's going to be running full time in 25 for Tricon. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. She's been in ARCA for several years now, and she's been driving for the Venturini team. The best team in ARCA. And she's not won a race. I think, I was looking at her stats earlier, the highest finish that she's had in ARCA is 4th place. And so, having those kind of results will get you a full-time Truck Series ride. What? That's nonsense. We all know why she's getting the ride, okay? Because NASCAR wants a woman in NASCAR and wants a woman to succeed. So bad, in fact, that they'll push someone up that has not proven that they have any capability of doing so yet. This is the same thing with Haley. You know, we pushed Haley up as fast as we possibly could, even though she wasn't showing the results. And this is, let me be clear, I'm not bashing on women in NASCAR or racing, because I've got zero problems with that. You know, I just want ones who are good to get the opportunity. Case in point, Johanna Long. She raced in NASCAR back in, 2012, 13, somewhere in there. And she was unbelievably fast. She drove for ML Motorsports. At least I think that's what it's called. And Nationwide, at the time it was Nationwide, now it's Xfinity. And she was unbelievably fast in that car. And that car had no business running top 10, top 15, top 20. But she carried it to the front. She couldn't get funding. And so she ended up disappearing from the landscape. But she was so good. Every other woman that's come along that they've pushed through NASCAR, forced up to the higher categories, has washed out and not shown any real speed or whatever. Like Danica, that was a weird situation because Danica, I feel like, actually did have speed. You know, she was good. She's a really good race car driver. I don't know what happened. I think it was a combination of a few different things. Rushing her up to NASCAR to the Cup Series was, not a good idea. She's not Juan Pablo Montoya. Where Juan could come in and jump in a Cup car and be up to speed right out of the gate. But Juan's a world-class race car driver. Who's racing in Formula One, Indy, everything that he's set in, he's won in. Danica was not the same caliber driver, and that's got nothing to do with her gender. It's just a fact, and that's nothing to be upset about because there's a lot of drivers who aren't on the same level as Juan Montoya. However you feel about Juan, you can't deny the fact that he's a world-class race car driver who can literally win in any car that he sits in. But back to Toni, I would not be the slightest bit surprised if the Steve Phelps, Steve O'Donnell, and or Jim France are not behind the scenes pushing David Gilliland and an ownership group at Tricon to move her up into trucks. What frustrates me too is you have drivers in ARCA who are more than capable of running trucks and being successful, who are being bypassed in favor of someone who will score political points And that's what it is. Let's not kid around. It's political points. Again, I've got no issue with women drivers. None whatsoever. I have the same issue with Toni that I have with several other drivers. Case in point, Tyler Ankrum was just announced, I think yesterday, as Bill McAnally re-signed him to run 2025 full-time in the 18 truck again. Why? It certainly isn't based on results. No, it's because he's got Liuna, whatever you want to call it, in his back pocket. He's a paid driver who's put up mediocre results. And Bill's equipment has been proven that it is capable of winning races. But we're gonna stick it out with Tyler. Nothing's changed with Tyler the entire time he's been in the Truck Series. He won a race in I can't remember what year it was, but it was his rookie year. Ford Tricon, at the time it was DGR. Other than that, he's been stagnant. He's not been terrible, he's not been great, just kind of been middle of the road. So why are we doubling down on that instead of getting someone who can, I don't know, win a race or two? They also announced that Daniel Hemrick's going to be in their truck next year, one of their other trucks, full-time. What? Why? Like, I like Daniel, he's a nice dude. But what has he shown in the Truck Series? That he can get a top 15 finish? That's my argument against Toni being in the Truck Series. That's a good seat with a really good team. Obviously, look what Corey Haim's done with them. Wins every other weekend. And it's being, I don't want to say wasted. Because, look, I hope I'm wrong. You know, like what I said about Riley Herbst yesterday, I hope I'm wrong. I hope she comes in and she just kicks everybody's ass. That would be great. And I would be a fan. And by the way, this has got nothing to do with her race or anything like that. Just none of that. None of that is going into what I'm saying about her. Because like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I hope she's on fire. Not literally, figuratively, when she comes out of the gate next year. Be great. It's just history has proven that this tactic doesn't really work. You know, it's been tried several times and it's not worked. It just doesn't work. You can't just move someone up into a tougher division when they haven't succeeded in the division that they're in. Jimmy Johnson being the crazy outlier. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Some of the other news, though, that I didn't touch on yesterday, I want to touch on today. Since I'm complaining about drivers and team pairings, Stingray Robb in IndyCar. For those who don't know, he's been past 2 years. He's been with two different teams. He started IndyCar with Dale Coyne. Last year he was with AJ Foyt, which AJ Foyt is a satellite team at Penske now. So we're all on the same page. So he announced AJ Foyt didn't retain him for 25. Okay, so Juncos Hollinger is a two-car team, 77 and 78. Romain Grosjean drove the 77 last year. Augustine Canapino drove the 78 for the majority of the season. They ended up firing him for political reasons. I don't get into all that, but they replaced him with Connor Daly, which is a great choice because Connor is a hell of a race car driver. A hell of a driver. And so they announced during the off-season, or the off-season's only been a few weeks or months or whatever, but they just announced that their two cars are going to be paid rides next year, meaning that the drivers that they hire are going to have to bring funding with them. Stingray Robb fits that bill. You know, he's got funding. I'm not exactly sure who it comes from or what it comes from, but he has funding. And so they announced the other day they're going to hire him to be in one of the cars, 77 or 78. They didn't say. I don't think they may have. Anyways, he's going to be in one of the cars. But Stingray, Dale Coyne is understandable because it's a minnow team. Okay, it's a team where basically like what Junie Dunleavy's Cup team was back in the day, where all the guys, or the Mittler brothers team in the Truck Series back in the day. You'd bring guys in and get them experience, and then hopefully they move on to bigger, more funded teams. And so we can take that out of the equation. But last year he was with AJ Foyt Racing and was mediocre at best. At best. When he wasn't wrecking. Because that happened a lot too. His teammate was running up front. Never won a race, but was running up front and was in contention several times. Santino Ferrucci. And so, I understand that you need money. I understand that as a race team. That stuff's not cheap. You know, and you fall on hard times. Any funding that you can get, hey, I'm all for it. But the market, the driver's market, there's plenty of guys out there who can bring funding, who can compete at a higher level than Stingray has proven to be able to. And so I just don't see that working. I don't see that bearing any fruit. Let's put it that way. Once again, I could be wrong, and I hope I am. I hope, because I like Stingray. He's got like the most badass name. His name is actually Stingray. How cool is that? You know? So that would be sick if he comes out next year and carries Junco's, which that team has not really been a front runner. They used to be really small. They infused a lot of money, got investments to make the team bigger and be able to compete up front. They've not quite gotten to that point yet, but they're about mid-pack. So if he could carry them up to the front, that would be sick. I mean, I'd be stoked about that. I really would. So I just don't see it. I don't see it. You know, that's it. And WRC, Toyota announced yesterday, which is about the worst kept secret in motorsports, that Sam Pyrie will be full-time in one of their cars next year in the main game. Sam just won WRC 2 championship last weekend, which, by the way, I may have touched on this yesterday. I don't remember. But the way that WRC 2 rules are set up, okay, so you have X amount of rallies throughout the season. You have to pick and choose a handful of those rallies which you're going to score points in WRC. It's not like this WRC 1, just WRC 2. You have to pick and choose which of those you want to score points in. The way that it shakes out, it leaves you with like 2 or 3 rallies where you're not scoring points. I think it's 2. And so you get down to the last rally of the season, Rally Japan, where the two guys are neck and neck for the championship. Well, one of them's competing, and the other one's sitting at home because that's one of the rallies they chose not to run, not to score points. It's crazy to me that we're going to have a championship shootout and one guy's sitting on the couch and the other guys compete. It's insane. The way this season worked out, Oliver Solberg should have won the WRC2 title by all rights. One of the rallies earlier in the season, I can't remember which one it was, but Kaylee Rovanpera in the main game, one of the Toyotas, had crashed, and Oliver come around a corner and was kind of startled. Didn't know he was going to come around the corner. There'd be a red car sitting there off the side of the road, and he lost control and flipped over, crashed out of the rally. And that was really the way that the schedule and everything works out. You really only have like one mulligan, and so he used it up there. I think 2-3 rallies left in the season, he ended up having a puncture at another one, and that cost him a minute and a half, and he never really made that up, so he finished in mid top 10 in WRC2. And so it cost him the championship. That's what I'm trying to say. And so Sam drives for Toyota in WRC2. He's a factory driver. He ran a couple of rallies earlier in the season, or late in the season, but a few weeks ago for Toyota, and he did okay. He wrecked out of one of them, but it's not bad. Nothing to write home about, but hey, he could get in a WRC car and set the world on fire. It's going to be a lot different when you're full-time as opposed to part-time, you know? which may be the same case for Toni in NASCAR. You know, since she's been part-time, now she's going to be full-time. It's totally different. You get more resources afforded to you as a full-time driver as opposed to part-time. So we'll see. I like the way that the 25 is starting to set up as far as drivers in these different categories. Robert Wickens, anyone who remembers Robert, he was paralyzed. I think it was 2018 in an IndyCar crash, and he came back from that, got back up on the saddle, started racing again in touring cars. He ended up being a factory high-end day driver and won championship, I think the Michelin Pilot Challenge in 23. One of those touring car championships he ended up winning in 23 with hand controls. Absolutely fantastic story. He's going to be in IMSA next year in a Corvette Chevrolet. So it's going to be interesting. I didn't watch as much IMSA this year as I really wanted to. That's going to change next year because I'm a massive Robert Wickens fan. What that dude's been able to do is just incredible. And that's all there is to it. But anyways, that's the news for the day. Past 24 hours. If you found this interesting, if you enjoyed this, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, leave a comment. If you're interested in auto parts, die-cast cars, racing t-shirts, and we have old NASCAR t-shirts and some old hats. And these are all original too. These aren't reproductions that were made with a press or anything like that. They were made, back when. So check out our eBay store. I'll put the link in the description. If you see something you're interested in, shoot me an offer. I mean, nothing's set in stone. We'll work it out. So thanks for watching, and I'll holler at you tomorrow. Thanks.